Hey everyone, this is Yvette Hampton. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so glad that you're with us today. I hope you are having a great day, whatever you're doing. If you're doing laundry or homeschooling or maybe doing dishes or listening in your car, it's always fun to hear where people are listening to the podcast and joining us. So today, as always, we have a fantastic guest on with you. And this is actually a topic that many homeschool moms need encouragement with, but one that we haven't actually tackled on the podcast. So we have with us today Nadim El-Rahi, and he is with CTCMath, and we are going to talk about all things math today. So Nadim, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's awesome to be with you guys. I appreciate it.
We are so glad to have you. Tell us just a little bit about you and your family.
Sure. So I'm Nadim, married to my beautiful wife, Tamara. We've been married for 4 years. We have 2 children, Emma and Chloe. Emma is 3.5, Chloe is 1.5. I've been part of the CTCMath team for about 7 years plus. Great story. Pat, the teacher, co-founder, owner, used to teach me. So that's how I met Pat and the team. So it's great to be with them.
Yeah. And you became a math expert, and so now you work with CTCMath.
Correct. So I have a college degree in math.
Okay.
And I look after all things CTCMath, but I have a real passion with homeschooling. You know, I think it's absolutely amazing that parents really take it upon themselves to take control and be really proactive about their children's education and their children's future. And I know how much of a difficult task it can be at times. So I certainly appreciate homeschoolers and the homeschooling community.
Yeah, well, thank you. We appreciate you, and I appreciate your awesome accent. You are from Australia, and I was going to ask you this actually later in the podcast, but since you're talking about homeschooling, I would love to know what is the atmosphere of homeschooling like where you are? There are a lot of families homeschooling there. Is it something that's just brand new? What's going on that side of the world?
It's definitely growing. It's growing, which is awesome. A lot of homeschooling resources from the US are getting to Australia. A lot of the homeschoolers in Australia are really tapping into the US resources, which is awesome, and it is growing. The difference with schooling in Australia is that all schools receive government funding. Okay, So all schools receive a level of government funding. So if you're not happy with the public education system, it is a lot easier in Australia than the US, to find a school with the same core beliefs that will teach and educate the children the way that you would want them. For instance, at the school that I went to, their philosophy was that the parents are the primary educators. So it's a lot easier and affordable to find schools that are aligned. But I think if changes are made, and it always seems to be heading down that direction, then homeschooling will certainly grow.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so I'm assuming it's legal where you are.
Yes, definitely. No, 100% legal. We have good family friends who homeschool their children. Tamara and I will certainly consider it when their children are age appropriate. And
Yeah. Well, after you see Schoolhouse rocked, there will be no doubt in your mind.
For sure.
You will say, definitely homeschool. We love it. And in regards to homeschooling, I will tell you quite honestly, one of the things that made me most nervous about homeschooling in the beginning was teaching subjects that I was not comfortable teaching. And math was the top of that list. Math and science may be tied with each other, but science, I felt like, I can do science to a point, and my husband was really good at science, but math was just one of those subjects that I do not like math. I've never liked it. I don't understand the concepts. And I mean, I do to a point. I know what I need to know to get through my adult life, but gosh, math was just so stressful for me in school. It was the class that I dreaded the most. All through my childhood, I just dreaded math. And so when I had to think about homeschooling my kids and thought about having to teach them math, I thought, well, I can get through the elementary school years, but even honestly getting into the middle school and definitely high school years, I just felt like I don't know that I can do this. And so I'm so grateful for programs like CTCMath who can come alongside us moms who don't love math. You know, one of my very best friends in the whole world is a math whiz, and she does math for fun. And I'm like, oh, that just sounds like straight torture to me. So, I mean, honestly, and I know that there are people out there who do that. They find it enjoyable to figure out these math problems. And I'm not one who does that. So tell us, I want to talk about math and talk about, you know, what are some of the big mistakes that parents make when teaching math to their kids?
Yeah, and you're right. It is a difficult subject to teach, and it can be quite nerve-wracking. But don't worry, there is help out there, and there are ways around it. But we can often make some mistakes as parents and teachers, and I think a few things to try to avoid when teaching math. The first one is the long, drawn-out explanation. I think as parents, we sometimes try to overcomplicate things and try to give really lengthy explanations. For the lower grades, I would try to keep it to 3 to 4 minutes. And for high school and up, maybe 6 to 8 minutes, depending on the lesson.
Okay.
Also, too many diverse methods that also can confuse a child. We sometimes think that if we equip them with all these tools, they'll be, no, just find the best method. The method, if they understand it and they get it, great, move on to the next concept. Don't try to complicate things for the child. By all means, each child is different. So some do like to get alternate methods, and they might have a more keen interest in math. For them, fantastic. All the things I talk about, they're all generalization, and each child is unique, and we have to remember that. But also, and that goes into thinking that discovery learning, the hype around discovery learning is super important. I think the discovery learning has its place. Don't get me wrong, but I think the children need their core need the core foundations taught to them first. And a perfect example of this is rote learning of times tables. You know, there's a lot of people out there saying that this is bad. Well, no, it's not. It's proven that the children need the foundations, that they really need the basic building blocks. And students who have rote learned their times tables, it's been proven that as they progress in math, as they get older, they find it so much easier to understand. But the biggest thing that we can make, and this is a really difficult one, and when I teach, I get into this habit, and even when talking to my children, is getting frustrated. Any sign of frustration that creeps in, the children sense. And I always make this mistake, and it's bound to happen. It's bound to happen over and over again. But I think we have to just try to remove ourselves from the situation if we're starting to get frustrated, because if children start to sense frustration, then they will become scared to come to us. And it won't be just math. As they grow up, it might be more serious and important things. And so that's one to be careful of.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that I'm often having to be aware of, whether it's math or spelling or any of those subjects, you know, because I think we expect our kids to learn it quickly. You know, you tell them the first time how to do it and you expect that they're going to just pick it up, and you think, well, I understand it. Why shouldn't they? And I'm explaining it to them. Why should they not just get it? And math especially is one of those subjects that it has to click in their mind. It's been fun with both of my girls as we've done math and watching them. You know, I remember when my oldest was learning division, and she was like, she just had a hard time getting it. And then all of a sudden she's like, oh, I get this. I understand it. And same with multiplication. Oh, I understand how to do this now. And it's really kind of fun to watch that light bulb come on and watch them actually get excited about it. My daughter told me the other day, she's like, I'm really enjoying multiplication. I'm like, okay. But, you know, it can become a frustration, and it can cause division between the relationship of the parent and the child. And that's one of the things we talk a lot about with homeschooling is it's to build relationships. And so let me ask you then in that regard, because it's such an important thing to build relationships in all areas of parenting, how, if your kids are getting frustrated, if there's something that they're just not getting, how would you suggest that a parent move forward? Do we just stop and hold back and just say, okay, we're going to just stop doing this for now? Or do we continue pushing forward until they get it?
Yeah, this is the brilliant part about homeschooling is you have all this freedom, which is awesome. If you're getting frustrated, if the child's really struggling, remove yourself from the situation altogether. So stop whatever you're doing in that moment. You can then weigh up the situation, maybe switch to a different subject. If it's gotten to the point where it's really, really bad, go on and do something else. Maybe call it a day for that homeschooling day and go on to something fun. I was having a conversation with Anna Willis. I know you know Anna. And she said that she was having this, just this really, really bad day. And then they just decided to get up and start cooking some cookies. So baking some cookies, which is fantastic. And how awesome is that you can just do that?
Yep.
So my suggestion is that if it's getting really frustrating, remove yourself from that situation, go on to a different subject or possibly something different. The other thing I would say is then take some time to reflect upon how you delivered that lesson. It's by no means me being critical of the parent and the teaching method, but you might want to just reconsider if you can teach it a different way, if you can bring in some other resources, if you can go in it with a different approach. If an earlier lesson needs to be covered, maybe the way you taught it might be perfectly fine. It's just they might not be ready for that yet.
Right.
So you might need to cover some earlier concepts, particularly math. We know that they're building blocks. So just do a little bit of self-evaluation. Don't be critical by any means, but just a little bit of self-evaluation so that you can just, because you don't want to just bury it and put it in the corner where they're never going to understand that. No. We know we can get it. So
just keep pressing on. So let's take a quick break and then we'll come back and continue talking about all things math. Give me just a second. Okay. We are back with Nadim, and we're talking about math, the wonderful subject of math and numbers. And, I remember when we first started homeschooling, one of the things for me that really became clear about why we're doing this homeschooling thing and why, as a parent, why it's important to always point our kids towards their creator. And in thinking through math, you think, well, how in the world can we teach math from a Christian perspective? And I've come to realize that math is one of the things that leads our kids towards Christ, because God is a God of order and he is a God of absolutes. He is not a God of chaos. And I've said this on the podcast many times. We teach our kids in math 2 + 2 = 4. That's never going to change. It is an absolute. It is a fact that 2 + 2 = 4. No one can ever change that, no matter how hard they try. It cannot be undone, because God has created math to make sense and to be a subject that is in perfect order. And it goes along with the perfect order of his universe. And so I love that, not that you have to say that every time you're teaching a math, but I love that just as we're teaching kids math, as we're teaching them science, as we're teaching them history, there are so many ways that we can just point their hearts towards Christ. And every once in a while, just give them that reminder, just how God made math so perfectly and in such perfect order. God created our universe in such perfect order. And so I'm learning to like math much better. I want to go back really quickly, because you had actually talked about times tables and the importance of kids learning times tables. And I'm going to ask this for myself and on behalf of all the moms who are wanting to pull their hair out saying, how do I teach my kids their multiplication tables? Do you have a system that you have found is the best way, or is it different for every child?
I think it is different for every child. I think it is different for every child. Depending on the child, they might just sit down and get it from an analytical point of view. They might just make the connection of how multiplication works and really the background mathematics in that multiplication. They might not be thinking of it, but their head can conceptualize it.
Mm-hmm.
Other children have really good memory. So if they just write it down and repeat it, and that their memory will just do the work for them. Other children need songs or rhymes or tunes to learn their multiplication times tables. So I think it really is about understanding the child, seeing what they need, and approaching it from that method or that methodology. What is important, unless they have fantastic memory, is that it needs to be revised. It needs to be done continuously. It needs to be practiced, and that's important. So really understand your child, really get to know them, really try to work out what works for them.
Okay.
Some like the manipulatives as well. So
yeah. So basically find what works best for your child and then just be consistent with that.
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
I don't think so. I'm pretty much no. So from experience, from what we've seen, that is important. That's the best approach.
Okay. We have just a few minutes left, and I want to talk about in the last few minutes how to make math fun. How can we do that, especially for the student like myself who just dreaded math? How, as parents, can we make math fun for our kids?
Yeah. Again, I think we really need to tap into their interests, work out what they like, work out what they enjoy, and then apply some math behind it. So, for instance, me as a kid, I loved cars. I absolutely loved cars. So something fun for me as a kid that I would do is maybe, as I'm driving, keep a survey of all the different model cars that drove past, or all the different colors. And then I can graph that, chart that. I love numbers and statistics as well. So that all came together. Board games are a lot of fun. I think board games at home and applying the mathematical principles behind them, whether it be cards or involving, play money or whatever it may
Yahtzee.
be. Yes, definitely. And another thing is, like, for instance, my 3-year-old, we tell her to set the table. Now let's count how many people are, she loves being organized and she loves order and she loves doing things well. So how many people are going to be having dinner? How many forks do we need? How many plates do we need? She doesn't want it. She's a bit of a perfectionist. So she wants the exact amount. So that helps her to count. And shopping, Best Buys, that's another one.
Yeah.
Huh?
Oh yeah.
That's just going through the grocery store, and my brother's a bargain hunter, so that's his approach. That's what he loves, and I don't know, depending on where you live, but if you get a whole bunch of leaves, I love guessing things as well. So if you got to rake the leaves, maybe trying to guess beforehand how many bags are going to be filled with all the leaves.
I thought you were going to say count the leaves, and I thought, oh man, that would take forever.
That would, but here's a fun one. You can sort of try to estimate how many leaves, how many go into one bag, how many bags you filled up, and just trying to apply it to things in everyday life that you find that tap into the child's interest. I think that's important. Sure. That's how we make it a little bit more fun and enjoyable.
Yeah. Well, and really, the whole purpose of education for our children is to prepare them for adulthood. And so, it's unlikely that every child is going to end up in a job that requires them to understand and know higher math. But it is required for every child to know, like you said, how to go into a grocery store and figure out, well, what is the better bargain here? Or, if I'm buying bananas at, 85 cents a pound, how many pounds do I have and how much is that going to cost? Or you were talking about Anna baking with her kids. And that's one of the best ways I have found. I mean, you can sit and do fractions with your kids all day long, or you can go make chocolate chip cookies, eat the chocolate chip cookie dough, which is the best. And you can figure out fractions that way because you have to measure, a third cup here, fourth cup there, half cup here, half teaspoon here. And it's such a great way to teach our kids actual life application of math, because that's really what it's intended for, is to raise adults who can function in the world. And, if you've got a kid who wants to be a mathematician or an engineer or, math teacher or something like that, then by all means, take them to the highest level possible. But, the purpose is to just prepare them for life. And so there are many ways to be able to do that. So I appreciate your feedback on that. We're out of time, but very quickly, tell us about CTCMath and how your program works and how people can find out more about it.
Sure. So CTCMath is an online curriculum. We're a full curriculum. It's K-12. Our point of difference, I would say, is our video tutorials. Pat's delivery of the lessons are just absolutely fantastic. But I don't want to talk too much about CTCMath. If you are interested, just visit our website, ctcmath.com. But
Okay.
please, if you have any questions, just in general, just send them to info@CTCMath. It doesn't have to be program related or our curriculum related to our curriculum. Just in general, about your child, your needs, anything math related where you need help with, reach out. We're always here to help.
That's awesome. Do you offer placement tests for students so that they can, we tend to think, well, my kid's in third grade, so they have to be doing third grade math. Well, not every child in third grade is going to be ready for third grade math, and some are going to be beyond it. And so do you do a placement test for them that they can figure out where best to start?
Yes, we have a ton of good features, particularly geared towards homeschoolers. One big thing is you have access to all lessons from all grades as well, so you can go back and fill in those gaps. Okay. We also have a placement test, but a slight twist on it. So if you've got any questions, reach out, and it will take me a couple of minutes to explain. So I know we're running out of time, but we do have a placement test with a slight twist on it. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we'll put links to those in the show notes, but for those who don't want to go to the show notes, just go to ctcmath.com, correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. Well, Nadim, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for your encouragement. It's one of those things that we math haters, I should say math dislikers, we need that constant reminder that math is good, it's important, and there are programs like CTCMath who can help us along the way. So I'm very grateful for your organization, what you guys have done to make homeschooling practical, doable, and much easier for moms like myself and for moms who love math. It's not just for moms who don't like math. It's for any child. So again, you guys check out CTCMath. Nadim, thank you for your time today. You are a blessing, and it's been really fun getting to know you and listening to your awesome Australian accent.
Thank you so much. And I just want to finish up by saying, all the mums out there, and dads too, homeschooling mums and dads, keep doing what you're doing. It's fantastic. It's awesome. Keep going.
All right. Well, thank you. You guys, thank you for listening. Have a fantastic day, and we will see you back next time. Bye.